What's everybody, welcome to the GrandTorino with me, your host, Quirton Cruckton. We're moving on to our second interview in a stage of stories that we're trying to report on. I just ask you first, if you get a chance, to like the video, subscribe if you can. We also have cryptocurrencies if you feel any of the videos are worth any monetary value, just to help elevate the platform and raise it up. And we're going to crack on here now with Mr. Kevin Sharkey. Kevin, I'm delighted to have you here for my second guest.
How you doing?
Just a quick snapshot for some of our guests, some of our American audience or our worldwide audience. If you could just give us a quick outline of who you are.
Who am I? I'm an artist. I was born in Dublin. My mother's Irish, my father was Nigerian, and I was brought up in a small fishing village up on the west coast of Ireland in Donegal called Killybegs. I was adopted by a family from Killybegs, and I was basically spent my childhood up there. And it was after I left there that I started to paint, and I've painted for years, but it's just in the last 20 years that I've been making a business and a success of it. And I'm very, very lucky that, given that I don't have any training, given that I never went to art school, I really just developed my own way of expressing myself, I guess. And by the time I showed my work to people, it had a very particular identity, which seems to work very well in the art world because everyone's looking for something a bit different. So I kind of stumbled on it. I would have done it for the rest of my life for no pay, but it was just wonderful to find something that you love to, that you can make a living at. So I now exhibit here and in other countries.
It's a beautiful gallery you have here.
Very modern art, it's contemporary Irish art, but I enjoy it.
So you say 20 years ago, for me it was kind of like maybe 10 or 15 years ago that I started to know there was a kind of a change in people's mindsets, kind of change in the conversation. When do you think this kind of socialism or this kind of Marxism, all this kind of stuff that came in where Irish people became more or less afraid or ashamed of their Irishness?
Well, I don't think it's any accident. For starters, I don't think it's any accident at all. When I grew up in Donegal, at the end of the dance, at the end of the night, they'd play the national anthem. And no matter how drunk you were, what state you were in, you were held up or you stood up. But in that moment, there was maybe 100, 200 people in an area, and when the national anthem was played, they all stood up, and they stood up with quiet and they stood up with respect because they felt a part of something in that moment. And I think that was the moment when who you were trying to pull got forgotten about, what you were trying to get to the bar got forgotten about, and it really was a moment of Irish national identity. And I remember that so well because even before I was old enough to go to the dances, we lived across the way and I used to hear the music, the national anthem. You'd think, oh, the dance is over, my sisters will be home soon.
That's right, yeah.
So, you know, like the Angelus,
yeah.
It was a call to Irishness, if that's appropriate.
Just for our American audience, the Angelus was a 6 o'clock ringing of the bells. It was kind of our call to prayer. And we would all either reflect or we would take a moment, which was the idea of it.
Or the Albans up in the country would drop to their knees on the floor and start praying, and the tea would have to wait and everything. It was quite a thing to see because it was a moment of reflection. And I went out into the world from Donegal and from Ireland, and because maybe you know, where I was in Donegal, I was the only black person there. So any idea or notion that I would acquire a black culture was fantasy. It wasn't going to happen. My parents were white, my friends were white, everybody was white. So the only identity that was open to me, and the one that I naturally went towards, and the one that means still the most to me, was to be Irish, because, you know, diddly-dee music was the first music I heard. And I took up Irish dancing at about 7, and I won 37 medals. And I'm convinced to this day it wasn't because I was particularly good, it was just because I'd come out and the Albans would go, jeez, look at the little black fella, get up there, he's real, give him a medal. So I won, but what it was the beginning of a lifetime love affair with Irish music, and it was a continuation of my culture in my mind. And I knew, okay, I knew there was something, but it really wasn't until I saw some black people. The first time I saw a black person was 12 and a half. Right. And my first reaction was like, whoa. And then I realized I couldn't afford that reaction because my friends, they came to me one day and they said, Kevin, there's some black people down the town, come on, we go and see them. And I was kind of like, no, you're all right. And they go, no, come on. So I went with my friends, it was 5 of us, me and Kevin White and Kevin Byrne, there were 3 Kevins, we used to all hang out together. And we get down to the town square and we're sitting on this wall, and I said, where are they? And they said, they're in Melly's Cafe having fish and chips. So we're sitting on this wall, and suddenly these two black people, very well dressed, emerged out of Melly's cafe. And as they did, all my friends started to go, Sambo, gollywog, Sambo. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, so I joined in. I mean, what do? You're like, you don't want to be the odd one out. So I'm sitting there going, Sambo, gollywog. And the lady walks right up to me. And at the point that she gets to me, all my mates are starboard, and I'm just sitting there with my mouth going, Sambo, gollywog. And she leans down, this beautiful black lady, and she said to me, that's not very nice, especially coming from you. And I was like, oh shit, I get it. She was as different and strange to me as I had been to people I'd never even known, just people I would come into contact with. So that moment changed everything for me from there on. But to that point, I was an Irish kid. You know, my red-headed friends were ginger. My friend with glasses was Four Eyes. Occasionally I was Sambo. It was no big deal. It really was just something that crept up on me. But you mentioned, the reason I mention this is because with Ireland and the way things are now, people think it's been a drift and it's an accident that we are no longer patriotic, that we are no longer national. And the great thing I'll say about me is I don't understand huge words. So I never got an education in Marxism, in socialism. I have an idea what some of them mean, but I didn't get an education beyond group search. So my lessons in education really was in life.
I think that's something we both have in common. I come through a spell of homelessness in my life as well. When I was 18 or 19, I moved to England. I spent time in the streets. I didn't get past my group search or whatever, but for me that kind of installed a work ethic, that if I didn't work or if I didn't get off and I didn't make it, then I wasn't going to feed myself. And you know, I didn't have any I couldn't fall back in education, so I had to have a good strong work ethic. And and because of my Irishness and stuff, I was a proud thing to carry forward.
Totally, absolutely. No. I feel exactly the same. You know, you're a shirker or a worker, and most Irish people. I mean, this nation is a nation of workers. I mean, Christ, they work incredibly hard. The level of employment is very impressive, and we are by and large, I think, a nation of workers, which was why we have exception to people who are lazy or conniving or just want something for nothing, because we had to go across the world to America without any social security system, without any dole, and we had to work when we got there. There wasn't an option, there was no money to be sent back. Remember the letters from America? Yeah. And that was all those people lived for. And in relation to the Irish question, what I'd say is this is, Juncker said the other day, when I asked about the European superstate, he said, no, that's not what we're doing at all, that's absolutely incorrect. He said, we are very proud that we have 28 individual different nations. And I thought, so today it's a good thing. But in truth, the reality is, you are not allowed to be Irish anymore. You're not encouraged to be Irish anymore. You're supposed to be European. And I believe that you cannot impose the removal of somebody's nationality only to give them one to which they haven't signed up to, and especially when you're a non-elected official. So it's very convenient for Juncker to say now, oh well, we're a nation of 28 states, but I spoke to a guy last week, Michael Burke, who has had an Irish flag removed from his house 12 times, and each time 200 euros the man who gets to take his flag away. Now where are we going when you can't put up an Irish flag? Now I get this politically correct bullshit about you can't offend people, but here's the thing, if I go to somebody's country, if I don't have respect for their laws and I'm not willing to integrate and I'm not willing to be part of of everything that they believe in, I'm going to run into trouble and I'm not going to be welcome there. So this politically correct bullshit, which is a cover for shut up and take it. What's happening now in Ireland is what's happening all over Europe, and it's very, very simple when you break it down. There's a lot of poor people in the world, and poor people will always want a better life, and I encourage them. I think that's something everybody should have an aspiration for. But we here in Ireland can't give everybody a better life. In fact, we've helped in ways that is way beyond what most European countries have done. We are known for a generosity, we're known for a kindness, and when you travel the world and you see some of the shitholes, to quote Trump, that are out there, you come back here and you think, Jesus, you know what? This is some country. These are some people. And you wonder, like I do sometimes, is where's the rage? Where's the anger? You know, why is there not a broken window in a Catholic church? Why is there not a banker hanging from a lamppost somewhere? And you wonder, where did the fighting spirit go? And if I'm honest with you, my conclusion is the reason the Irish don't fight back is because in 1954, the Catholic Church decided to introduce a poisonous chemical to the drinking water, fluoride. It was the church that made that decision in 1954. And in 1954, the average family was 8 to 10 children. As a result of the fluoride in the water, which, first of all, fluoride is, you take a Prozac, it's 65% fluoride. Think about that. A mood-altering drug, which the people of Ireland are drinking and ingesting every day, pregnant women, children. There isn't a drug in the world that's safe.
Well, one of only 12 countries in the world that put fluoride in their water.
Exactly.
People go, what are you on about?
No, trust me, they need to do a bit of research because this is something we have the highest rate of fetal abnormalities in Europe. We have the highest rate of suicide in Europe. Prozac was first introduced, fluoride was first introduced to the drinking water of the Jews in Auschwitz. And the Nazis put it in there to control them. They didn't want them multiplying and they wanted to cull them. So we're talking about the same drug here.
Yes.
And if someone said to me that any successive government had said, wait, what's this we're doing? They say, oh, it's for your teeth. So you know what, if I want fluoride for my teeth, I'm going to go and buy some toothpaste with fluoride in it.
That's right.
But that water, I say, welcome to Ireland, just don't drink the water.
Yeah.
So there's something, I believe in that, and I think if people want to research it, they'll be very shocked.
I would encourage people to look into it. Most of our guests in America would be more and more coming up on it, but people here in Ireland might not be aware of it.
They're not, and I think it's worth, they should look into it because they're ingesting this poison every single day. So, to get back to the issue of, it either means something to you that you're Irish, or it doesn't. There's not really a lot of choices. It either means something to you or it doesn't. And if it doesn't mean something to you, that will inform your opinion on everything Irish.
Exactly.
If it does mean something to you, then that will inform your opinion on everything Irish. And my feeling is, if you have children, you have to ask yourself at some stage, do I care what world my children bring up their children in? And if I do, can I do anything to make sure that that's a safe place? And more importantly, the question, and this is the big question, this is the question that I think a lot of people will have a problem with when they hear me say it is, I believe that in 200 years, Ireland should still be Ireland. I believe that in 200 years, Ireland should still be a predominantly white country. Because the culture that is Ireland is the only thing that we have and the only thing that we've ever had that have not just set us apart and made us unique, but it's at the core of who we are. And if we're going to allow somebody who's unelected to dictate who can come and go into our country, then we have a problem. And it's like you buy a house, right? You buy a house from me and I'm the estate agent, I turn up to give you the keys and I said, there you go, enjoy your new house. But by the way, you have to leave the back door open at the weekend and you can't close your windows Monday to Friday. You'd say, hang on a minute, what kind of fucking house is this? So it's a European house. If you don't own the borders, you don't own your country.
Exactly.
When did we hand over, after getting out from under the British, when did we decide that we would go in under unelected officials in Brussels who basically have one objective, and this is what's going on in Europe and this is what's going on all over Europe. Europe is being repopulated right now. And it's being repopulated by banks who run politicians. They want more taxpayers. They want more people buying petrol. They want more people buying lotto tickets. And they don't give a shit if you're going to cut your daughter's clitoris off because of some ridiculous barbaric religious belief. And they don't care if you've got a rag on your head. They don't care because to them it's about numbers and money. And they will never have to put up with the social problems that are now being witnessed in places all over Ireland by somebody thinking that this was going to be okay to just impose other cultures without stopping to think about protecting the one culture, which is the only one we have a responsibility to protect, and that's Ireland, and that's the Irish.
Do you think our elected leaders, or do you think anyone that purports to support an open border policy is is declining their Irishness? Are they?
I think they're traitors. I think what they're doing is they're committing treason.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot say, you know, you're no longer Irish, you're now European. If somebody comes and tells me I'm no longer black, I'm Chinese, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, it's like this transgender thing where say, I identify as a woman. I said, well, it takes a bit more than that to make you a woman. You need a womb, some tits and a vagina. But what you get is this ridiculously And it's under the guise of political correctness, but what it really is a very, very clever way to shut you down, to shut your lifetime's experience that have brought you to this point in your life, and you have reason and logic, and you're entitled to that opinion. But people will say, "Oh, that's not politically correct. You can't say that because it's racist. You can't say that." And I'd say, you know what, bullshit. My point is, when I looked at racism, and I really had to look at it because I didn't want to. I never wanted to know the first thing about racism, but when I suddenly realized it was an issue, it was going to be an issue for me in my life, I thought, well, okay, let me see if I can get my head around this. What the fuck is it? What is this racism? Where does it come from? And what's real racism? And the more I looked at it, the more I had to look at my own behavior, because everybody looks at racism, they're all looking at everybody else's racism. He's a racist, she's a racist. But they never stop to go, well, am I a racist?
Exactly.
And the truth was, when I was honest with myself, absolutely. I was shocked to find that I was just as racist as all the racists. The only difference was, I understood that it was ignorance and that I could become enlightened by learning more about these cultures. Some people don't want to know more. But here's the thing about racism. It's the cleverest thing in the world because, you know, I have people say to me that, do you have a problem with foreigners? Do you have a problem with integration? Do you have a problem? I love the idea of integration, but I've seen very little examples of it working well. And I've seen many examples of it being a complete disaster. And to the point that the identity of the host nations becomes almost a threat to the welcome that has been given to people who really are arriving pretty much barehanded. Now, every country needs immigration. Look at Australia. They've got a perfect system there. We should adopt that system.
I think that system should be as well. Absolutely. And somewhere on the lines of Canadians that you're going to come in with some sort of skill set.
What do you bring into the party?
What do you bring into the party?
Yeah.
Like, I understand, as I've said in previous interviews and stuff like that, of course we welcome refugees. Anybody that's in dire need, of course we want to facilitate them and give them it, but we're not going to give everything or give ourselves up in totality just to appease it. Or why, as I was thinking myself, why are our cultures being brought down to the same
so that we will roll over and accept it, and that's what's happening now. And we are. Look at Sweden. Look at France. I mean, I went to places in France, and you can feel it in the air. You know, you go into the centre of Paris. It's beautiful, lovely shops, lovely restaurants. You go to the outskirts, and it's like watching. You know, a cougar before it pounces. There's that moment of, oh fuck, I think he's going to pounce. And it isn't really anybody's, you know, the people who want a better life will always go in search of it, as I would. But I think there comes a point when you have to ask yourself the simple question, if my government has a responsibility to anybody, who does it have a responsibility to first? And if the answer is not you, you're in big trouble. And that's where we're got right now. We have a housing system which is under incredible strain, and we have a hospital system which is under incredible strain, and nobody in the mainline public media or politics wants to talk about the fact of, you don't think it might be the extra 500,000 people we've added to this system?
What about today's report? You might not be aware of it, that 2040 there was a new Twitter hashtag that's going around where the government are going to borrow 115 billion for projects to develop the infrastructure around Ireland for people that aren't even here yet, but they're going to borrow that money, 115 billion, over the next how many years?
From Europe.
From Europe,
yeah,
and we're already in the hop.
Yeah, it's money lending. It's money lending. I asked a German a couple of years ago, a smart man, I said to him, can I ask you something? I said, what is your government telling you that makes it okay for them to hand out billions here, billions there? I said, I'm quite confused. Do they tell you, like, you know, don't worry, we're getting it back? I said, well, how is it okay with the German people? And he said, oh, really, it's very simple. We lend you some money and you pay it back, and now we're very happy because everybody paid it back. Only problem, they don't pay back, we have a problem. And I thought, oh, so it's money lending, and that's what we've done. And that the success of politicians in this country, you know, there's no other way to say it. They're more interested in their bosses and their donors than they are in the people who elected them. And I think the only way it will ever change is if the people who elect them are educated to the point that they can make an educated decision. Now, everybody's entitled to make their own decision.
Absolutely. But
you need to make a decision based on knowing what it is you're deciding on. And when you look at the mainstream media here, right across the board, it's the same song. We're all European now, you're all behind it, shut up, you're spoiling the party. And that's exactly what's gotten England into the state it's in. And if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about here, go to Manchester, go to Birmingham, you know, go to places in England and you tell me where you are. because you're not going to be able to tell by looking around you. And that's where we're headed, without any doubt, in 20 years from now, if people don't ask themselves the simple question, do I want my culture to be preserved or not? And if you don't, then change channel. If you do, then you really need to start thinking about the solution, not the problem, because everybody knows there's a problem. Everybody can tell you about this crowd and that crowd and this crowd. And I say to people, if you want to be smart, stay away from the stereotypes, stay away from the minefields. And the minefields are words such as nationalities, words that describes people's religions. Forget all that, because that's just gobbledygook, and worse, it confuses people who don't know the full story. No, there's only one thing we need to focus on, and that is numbers, and that's real, truthful numbers, which we don't get. How much money are we, like, I'll tell you right now, 740 million last year we gave in foreign aid. Excuse me?
740.
Excuse me? Since when did we have enough money to give away 740 million? And those decisions are not being made by the politicians, those decisions are being made by the civil servants. The guys are really running the show. Because the politicians come and go, but they're like...
Could we say deep state?
You know, funny enough, someone said to me the other day, who are they, who are they? And I said, they are the people who think the system is working. They're the people who think the system is working because they work for the system. For all the rest of us, we know better. We are the clever ones. We got the education. I would beg to differ, because I've seen that before. Not just people falling flat on their face who think they're smarter than everybody else, but in reality, if you study anything in life for long enough, you'll become an expert in it, but at the loss of becoming an expert in many other things. And life sometimes, as you know, can teach you a lot more important lessons than what 2 and 2 are. And I think this is where we've reached a point where our betters, and by that I include people like the other day, Fintan O'Toole in the Times called John Walters a fantasist, and said the utterly ridiculous notion of nationality. And he argued that nationality would be the very thing we would lose if Ireland ever left Europe. But he doesn't say...
I think your analogy was a caged boar thinks flying is an illness.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And there you have it. Do you believe, and I asked I thought he was a smart man, he's a solicitor, and I asked him a week ago, and I said, can I ask you a question? Do you think Ireland's capable of running its own affairs? And he looked at me and he said, no. I said, well, there you have it. There you have it. We have lost confidence in ourselves. We've lost confidence in our dreams, in our goals, and most importantly, in our abilities. We remain now, very soon, the only English-speaking country in all of Europe. We should be rewriting the whole rule book right now, saying, okay boys, you want to deal with Europe, you come through us, but here's the thing. No more open borders. Here's the thing. You come here from another country, you don't get told. Why should you be giving money to anybody when you cannot afford to look after your own? My mother had 8 kids. And she would come in with the pot of stew, and the plates would go on the table, and the plates would be full. And then, only then, if there was a couple of kids, there was always half a dozen neighbours' kids hanging around looking for somebody each, standing on one foot, you know, like, and she'd say, grab a plate there, and she'd feed them, and she'd do it happily. Yeah. But she would never put a spud on anybody's plate before all her own family were fed, and that is what we need to remember here. You know, we grew up I grew up in a time, I remember, when it was cabbage and bacon 3 days a week. Sorry. You know, those people who lived on nothing to make this country what it is today, and it's a great country. Do you really think that they did that so that people from other places, and you don't have to give them nationality, just anybody should be looked after before their own? And what's starting to happen now is we have a whole generation of people who are watching. I had somebody speaking to yesterday, lovely couple, young couple, they've got a kid, can't get it into their school. And they're really upset because it's close. And I said, why not? And they said, well, there's just so many, it's full. And I said, do you mind me asking, is it full of Irish kids? And they went, no, it's full of lots of different nationalities. So for them, it was an inconvenience. But I've seen what happens, and you're always going to have poor people wanting a better life, and we are like Sweden now. We can deny it, but we're seen as a rich go-to destination. And as I said, if me and you were sitting in a hut in Africa or any other poor country and had a bad life, and you told me that I could go to this country and I could get £200 a week, I'd say to you, well, what do I have to do for it? And you say, well, you just got to sign your name. I'd say, really? And you'd say, yeah, and you know what, you know the kids that you're not taking with you, we can send some money for them too. Me and you would be packed a bag and we'd be on our way to Dublin, and who'd blame us? And that's why I don't feel any animosity towards people who come here wanting a better life. You know what, if the system is fucked and you can take advantage of it, who am I to hold that against you? You're poor, you have nothing, so you didn't travel all this way to get a suntan. You didn't travel all this way, you know, and that's the question is, welcome people to our country. Of course we need nurses, we need doctors, but we need people who are bringing something to the party. And anyone who thinks that we can sustain giving money to people who haven't done anything to deserve it, or who see us as a soft touch, or who see us as being so, then we really have already sold out, and we don't need to go far to see what's coming next.
I think you're right. I think another thing as well is the methods of transportation. As much as these people, and I say these people that are risking their lives to try and better their families and are crossing the seas and the great oceans, and we have these NGOs, paid NGOs that are picking up these the immigrants, trying to pick them up 11 miles off the coast of Libya, but rather than drop them back off to the coast of Libya,
it's 200
miles to Italy where they're jumped off. Now our Navy is complicit in that as well. Our Irish Navy leaves down here, flies down to Libya, picks them up and then dumps them in Italy. It doesn't bring them back here to Ireland. What's the sense in that? How do we justify that?
Well, here's the curious thing about that is there's three things going on here. When people talk on the radio, they use the word asylum seeker, they use the word refugee, and they use the word benefit tourist, right? To describe the three different sets of people. Unless you define at the offset what the hell you're talking about, there's a lot of room for confusion. Are they asylum seekers? Are they benefit, you know, tourists? Like what? And what we have now is what I see with my own eyes. Is I see a lot of people, mostly African in this instance, who want a better life, who are working age, who are fighting age. I don't see refugees. When I see a refugee, I know what I'm looking at. And my thing with the refugees is always this, you know, you want to solve the refugee crisis, stop blowing them out of their fucking homes. You know, look at the people who are bombing the people out of Syria. They owe responsibility to help these people. But what we now have is a system which is saying, come here, you're welcome, and that's without qualification. And that's the real danger. It's
identification, sorry, Kevin.
And identification, that's the most important. Who are you, where you come from? And the thing is, people say like, oh, you know, when a white man talks like this, they say he's a racist, he's racist. That's bullshit, it's nothing to do with that. This is about understanding that there are different kinds of people who come to your country. Some of them bring a great benefit. I see people in this country from other countries, and they're a credit to themselves and to where they came from, because their children are well dressed, they're well behaved, they're getting an education, the mother and father keeping their head down, they're studying, they respect, they share maybe the religion, but they have a respect for where they are, and they have an appreciation, and that's lovely to see. And that's why when I see a lot of mixed kids going in the street, I wish I could have had that growing up. I really do. That's real integration, because those kids just look and they see their friend. Now to them it's just a different shade. But we grew up in a different time, and those children are still innocent and they're still naive, and they still have yet to realize that these friends are now in contention for the benefits that they might expect to get being Irish. And you look at America and you look at Trump, and people say, oh, yo, he's terrible man, he's terrible man, he's America first, America first. Wow, why on earth is that a bad idea? When did wanting to put your own people first become an offence? And that's exactly what we're dealing with now. You drive to Galway, me and you took a drive to Galway. We drive down there, what, 3 hours maybe. If anyone don't know anything been married that's ever going to Galway, it's a beautiful drive. You drive along and there's lakes and there's trees and fields, and honestly for me it's like music, because I love nature and I love it. But we grew up in a time when we were entitled to see that as our view. That's the beauty of Ireland, that's there for us to enjoy. We are now very close to the delusional seen by the powers that be, because we have this notion of Irishness, we have this notion that this country belongs to us, and they're going, no, 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 no. That's not correct. You're old school, you're thinking old style, you're old fashioned, you're out of step. And what that's doing is allowing, it's like the right hand's going like that, while the left hand's going like that. And it is, it's a very clever game. It's like the shells under the pea under the shell, but it is being played beautifully. And there's no mistake that this influx of people coming to Europe is increasing. That's not by accident, and it's going to, because when the powers that be look at Ireland, they don't see the view, they don't see the lake, they don't see the trees, they see real estate. They see more money, more people, more money, more voters, more power, and that's why they do what they do. So this national idea is now, that's why it's all to play for. It
mixes up in a way. Coming back to President Trump there, because you mentioned him there as well. And it seems to be a thing with the left that no matter what, and it's just whether you like the man or not, or whether you like President Trump or not, or his politics, you have to respect the rule of the office, the presidency. He's a duly elected by mandate. I would like to make the comparison. I don't believe our own Taoiseach here is by mandate.
No.
He just slipped in and then he's become the head of the party.
Well, he didn't so much slipped in as he was put in there. You know, they have him in there for a very good reason.
Not elected, I didn't elect him.
No, I, between me and you, if you said to me, do I think he would be elected tomorrow if it was 9 hours? I don't think it would, because I think too asoon.
And now he's gone off and signed us up to PESCO, so now we're part of the military agreement. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's why he got the gig. You know, I saw a picture of Leo shaking hands with Juncker in Brussels a couple of weeks ago, offering more money to Europe, and I thought, whoa, sorry, that man isn't elected by anybody. You were elected by people who expected you to do what's right by them first. You're playing a very dangerous game here, because this is what happens with people who play this game. They over-egg the cake. Hillary did it in America. They had, did the balloons up for the first woman president.
She won, apparently.
Oh, in her head she did. In her head she's still bloody winning, but she makes me laugh. She's like the old drunk auntie at the party who won't piss off home. They're like, will somebody call a cab for her? They go, we called 3 cabs, she won't go.
A friend of mine said this for a different thing. He said, the only thing, it's not that I was going to vote for Trump or I'd have any aspirations to Trump, it's just that I seen the stink eye in Hillary. And once I seen, the stink eye is, that look that...
Yes.
I looked at someone and once I knew that I seen that, now she's not the right candidate, because she wouldn't be able to control her emotions. But then with all the other things that will come unfold in time, people will come.
Bonnie and Clyde have nothing on her.
Oh.
And I'd like to think that there is some way in the system that she will be brought to justice, but unfortunately I think that system is far too closed for anybody in there who does the bidding.
Give it time, Kevin, give it time.
I hope so. Oh God, I wait every day in the hope that I'm going to read, her being taken out in handcuffs. But the thing about Trump is, look, if you believe in democracy and you either do or don't, he won. Get over it. Because what we're witnessing now is the biggest hissy fit in history, and what's the biggest problem for the Americans is that these people who support her and continue to rubbish the democratically elected president are really doing a huge disservice to the people who elected them, like we have here. They're saying, no. It's more important that we hate him. It's more important that we spend all time talking about him, giving out about him. It's not going to change nothing. They get, if they're not going to shoot him and they can't impeach him, they need to cop on and realise that their face is on the cornflakes box. Tony Blair, Maggie Thatcher. The day they took Maggie Thatcher out of Downing Street, I remember thinking, there's something wrong with this picture. She won 2 elections, that makes her a democratically elected leader. And now they have an election coming up, they think she's too harsh, so they want to get rid of her. But you can't do that to a democratically elected leader. And there she was leaving Downing Street in the car in tears, and I thought, whoa!
How did that happen?
How did that happen? I thought if the people voted you in, they were the ones. But what I looked into and what I found out about was that the people who really run the UK, the 1922 committee, headed by Sir Marcus Fox. You need to check out that dude. He's a bad mother.
Check that out.
And those guys are the power brokers. Like we have the civil servants here, and they rest, for me, are puppets, and they're useful puppets to them. To us, they create the illusion of democracy. But we're as I said the other day, we're getting shagged and nobody even bought us a drink.
Yeah.
We're being asked to roll over and accept our betters, who really have questionable, in my mind, questionable affiliations with their own nationality.
Our understanding is what's best. As he said, they work a system that seems to work for their benefit, and whatever spills down, we get the trickle down effect. But we're not getting the trickle down effect because there's not enough water or not enough cash to go around, because
there's also more. There's now more hands, and all those hands are coming from different places, which is what happens when when stuff's available. There's always be somebody there to take their portion. So, at the moment with Trump in America, again, there's so much focus on A that I'm wondering about B. This thing with the Owan brothers, the whole spying on Congress.
Which I think many of our Irish audience probably won't be aware of, and maybe a percentage of our American
audience. Well, they need to check out the Owan brothers, because these guys were found to be running a spy ring in the American Congress. And when you have ex-Mossad telling you, these Pakistani guys were spying on everybody, I'm like, really, without anybody's help? And I believe what was really going on is that the Israeli spy ring, the Mossad spy ring, which controls the Senate and controls the House of Representatives, I believe that they were working for them. And this whole, it's them, is like, over here, not over there. So, nothing happens in Washington without the people who really control the power knowing about. And we talked about the deep state. And I think there is, you know, the deep state, it's easy to be, you know, to dismiss it as a conspiracy theory. But when you see an entire nation of people in America who believe that 3 buildings were taken down by 2 airplanes, you have to start going, well...
Building number 7, check out building number 7.
Yeah, really, because, and there you have it. And that nonsense, that conspiracy as to what happened that day is still put forward as being the official version of the truth, when if anybody who's got a computer and an imagination and you know, the ability to look at the facts and come to their own conclusion would very quickly realize, no, what they're being told happened that day didn't happen. So that's how powerful the mainstream media are in America. And again, they're owned by the banks, you know, they'll take both sides, and that's where we're at as a people.
Bringing it back here now as well, bringing it back to this side, we kind of have a similar setup coming up, where our mainstream media is controlled by very few individuals, and they seem to control our narratives.
Yes.
And if they're working in tandem with the political system, you know, 2 hands of the same, feeding the same thing.
Puppet masters.
Puppet masters. I think our media is too centralised. It's too, like I said, it's controlled by one cloth. We got our RT, which is our main state broadcaster, and then we very few limited alternative media.
It helps in one way, and that is I question everything that I hear in the mainstream media, everything, because I've seen them lie. I've seen them. You know, I've seen what they do, so I'm not saying everything they say is untrue, but I question everything. And the reason is if I owned a newspaper or I owned a radio station, how much would I want my opinion to be metered out there? How much would I want my values, my moral code to be part of what my station did? You can be sure, of course I would, because I'm not paying to have yours put up there. So when you see these people, may I call them the puppet masters, Dennis O'Brien, Rupert Murdoch, people who highlight this, and they own the politicians. They have, whether it's Blair agreeing to, you know, anything on a boat and a yacht out years ago, or whatever it is, these people have an agenda, and you can be sure it is not it's not for the benefit of us, because we are not of them. We're different people, and you know, I hear people say something, black people, when they talk about slavery, and I say, would you fucking get over it, for Christ's sake? It happened. It was shit. Shit happens. What happens to you in your life is not a fraction as important as how you react to what happens to you. So, you know, being a victim, you're wasting your time. You're just one violin playing in the dark. Really, what we need to do here, and I think what people, I look at Tommy Robinson, I look at people who basically are turned into hate figures and persecuted because they happen to believe that their country is something that's worth standing up for. That's his biggest crime, right? And look what they've done to him. Oh. And yet, when I see him confronting a Muslim somewhere, or the lovely lady Jada, when I see her arguing with a woman in a burqa, I think, you know what, whoa, guys, you know what, here, you need to be smarter about this. Yeah. This is too street. Yeah. You can't sort anything by screaming at somebody in the street. No, stop looking at the problem. You either believe there's no problem, or there is a problem. And if you believe there's a problem, the only way that you're ever going to make any progress is to come up with a viable, feasible, working solution. And by that I mean you need to focus on that as to get you forward, because this fighting and arguing and bickering, look, it is what it is. What it becomes next is for people like yourself, who take their time and energy to do this because you believe in it. You have children, you want to do what you can to secure a future for them, and that is the linchpin here in Ireland. I promise you, Irish people are fair and they're generous and they're kind, but when they're informed, they make very good decisions. When you keep them in the dark, they don't know what they're deciding on. And I see it more and more now, where I say to people, you know what? There was a book years ago called The Secret, and it was all about focus on what you want and it will become real. Now, I would argue that for sure, if you focus on what you don't want, you're probably much more likely to draw it into your life. And I think that's what we're doing. I think that's what we're all doing. We're focusing, we don't want this and we don't want that, and we're not having little girls' genitals ripped up. Yeah, that's all true. But actually, we can all scream about what we don't want. It's only when we start really making real in our minds the future and where we want Ireland to be in 200 years' time. And I would say to any Irish person, do you want Ireland to stay Irish? Do you want in 200 years for someone to come here and be able to watch a wee girl Irish dancing? To be able to say, go up to the Guinness factory? And I'm not being flippant, but this is the reason Millions of people travel from all around the world to come to Ireland. They don't want to come to Ireland and be in Bengal. They don't want to come to Ireland and be in the Congo. They want to come to Ireland and be in Ireland.
They come for the weather, believe it or not.
They come for the weather. Well, that's a great thing. They give us, absolutely.
They want to be cooler. They want to come out of the sun. Leading down to our last few sections, and I refer to the spinning plates analogy. Like, we've got whole different concepts in our minds, and I'd say we could have 5 or 6 plates spinning on a plate. We've talked about Irish nationalism and where we seem to be going. That's that plate going. We've crossed the pond now over to America, and we've talked about President Trump, you know, and all the kind of the stuff that he's facing over there, and all the anti-Trump. Rather than move together, it's just complete anti-Trump all the time. We can understand that. Moving back here now to Ireland, we have a referendum coming up very shortly on abortion, and with that plate in mind, I'd ask you, where do you see all this? How do you find it in your mind?
It's funny with abortion. I have 5 sisters, and growing up in the 60s in Donegal, unwanted pregnancies. In fact, I was the result of an unwanted pregnancy. So. You know, the whole issue of unwanted pregnancies was a very real day-to-day thing in small communities, and the circumstances of those pregnancies sometimes were less than ideal, and having a fix for all of them together never really seemed like much of an option. But as I got older, what I realized was that sometimes when I talk to people about racism, they have no experience of racism. Yet they will tell me what is and what isn't racism. When it comes to abortion, my feeling is very simple on this. I believe this is the year of the woman, yeah? You know, women, I never thought women weren't equal to us. I always figured that as soon as they got the equal pay, the blokes would just turn around and go, well, you took your time asking. Really, I think it's more an acceptance of unequalness than it's been imposed on them. I think a lot of women are willing to accept that they're not equal to men. When it comes to abortion, I have no idea what it's like to find myself pregnant. Worse still, I have no idea what it would be like to find myself with a fetal abnormality baby, or a child that I didn't want through rape, or a child that was through incest. I have no idea, but I tell you what, I bet it would freak me out. And here's what I'd say. Women are smart enough to know their own bodies. They know about this experience. They go through it. Men don't go through it. My feeling is that we should allow the women of Ireland to have a vote on this really important issue and then implement what they want. I just think as men, the biggest problem we've always had as men, and you know this, you grow up and if you're asked a question you don't know the answer, you're stupid. So men have a habit sometimes of giving an answer because they don't want to appear stupid. And you ask a man for his opinion on abortion, he'll have one, but in real terms, they're not going to carry a baby around for 9 months. They're not going to go through the pain of childbirth. So I just think that we're expecting men to understand more than they do about the female thing. So I would say, listen, women know their bodies. Women are not stupid. They're smart enough to make these decisions. Why do we not for once show them that we respect their equalness and say, you decide what you want and we'll implement it? Because you know what? Our mothers were women. And our mothers weren't daft. Our mothers knew how to raise kids, and they knew sometimes when it was one kid had to go because he was too much trouble. So my feeling on the abortion issue, and you mentioned it in relation to the Constitution. Here's the thing about the Constitution. Constitution was written quite a long time ago, and society's changed, life has changed, we've changed as a country. My understanding of the whole vote on the gay marriage thing, now for me, I was asked to go on the late 20 years ago, and I went on to speak specifically about this. And what I said to Gay Byrne at the time was, Gay, you've asked me to come on here to talk about gay rights. I don't believe in gay rights. I do believe in human rights. And if you've spent 30 to 40 years of your life with somebody and built up a business and you love them, if they die and you're not allowed to be at their hospital bed, if you're cut out of their will, if you have no right to anything you've built together, that's not fair on your human rights. So on human rights, I think people need to have a system that recognizes, and civil partnerships would be it. But what started to happen was the marriage thing kept going up, and the weddings and the gay weddings. And I always said in Ireland, you know what, I reckon the gay marriage vote came about simply because the Catholic Church has lied to us for so long that the Irish people went, well, we know you don't want it, so we're going to vote for it. Yeah. I think they did it to piss off the clergy. I really do, because I was telling me to vote and said, what the hell would you do that? Yeah. Because they're fed up and they're angry and they feel let down. And we know for years we were told a narrative which really, it was talking, never mind don't look over here, But we were told that we were going to burn in hell for being human. We were told that we were going to burn in hell for masturbation, that sex was wrong, that sex outside marriage was wrong. We were told some crock of shit by some very sick people. I always say never trust a man wearing a frock, and I keep that as a regular. But here's the thing, and the people who told us that, if there was such a place as hell, there wouldn't be any there wouldn't be any room for the likes of me and you. What have we done? It would be full of the clergy. Yes. Because in my experience, in my lifetime, I've never seen such evil perpetrated under the name of good. And it breaks my heart because I know how important God is. And I know how important it is to believe in something. But when you have to pay 20 million to get the Pope to come here, I'm going, whoa, hang on a minute. Here's what, tell you what, we're going to do it on Skype. We're going to give the 20 million to the homeless. We'll set you up on Skype, your holiness, and we'll do it on Skype. Yeah. And then the one thing I will say about the Pope coming to Ireland is this, and I really, really want this opportunity to say it. Go ahead. The reason so many children were raped and abused under that system was because of canon law. Because in the Catholic Church, canon law dictates that if a child comes to you and tells you that child has been raped by a priest, you do not go to the guards, you go to your superiors, who will move that priest, hopefully he'll stop doing it, and then we'll silence the kid. Now, here's the problem, canon law still applies. The Catholic Church, if it came out tomorrow and said two things, would transform its future in this country. The first thing they should say is, from today, canon law no longer applies. We agree that if a child is raped or abused by a priest, they go to the guards. Forget this nonsense. We've messed it up. We've caused so many problems, and we've destroyed so many people's faith in the religion by how we've behaved. The second thing I think the Catholic Church should do to turn their fortunes around is to say, you know what? We have these wonderful buildings in the middle of every town in Ireland. We call them churches. We don't use them every day, but from here on, Saturday, we're going to use kids' gymnastics. We're going to use the church for that. Friday night, the old ladies can have their bingo. On any time we're not using this wonderful building, because we didn't have community centres in Ireland. We don't, and we need them, because where do people go? They go to the pub. Yeah. They go to the pub because they cannot deal with being human. And who told them that being human was bad? You know? And that's what we need to do here, is we need to have an adult, realistic conversation with these people and say, no, 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 no. You can't do this anymore. And it's not in the past as long as it's still going on. And if the law says that's what's still happening, that's what's still happening. So we're kidding ourselves to think that this is in the past. The truth is, we want it to be in the past. We really do. But it's not. And until we do something like adults and say, let's deal with this problem. It's the same in this country with alcohol, with drugs. You know, we talk about the drugs that the government is not making money on, and we call them bad. And then we look at the drugs that the government is making money on, that kill more people, that do more destruction, and we think that's acceptable. You can go to a pub in Dublin at 11 o'clock in the morning and get pissed. I spoke to a fellow the other day, he was up in court for smoking, the guards found him with one joint. And I couldn't help thinking, how much paperwork did that really take? And is it going to change anything? Like the kids who listen to their father saying, with a fag in their hand, if I fucking catch you cursing or fucking smoking, I'm going to kick your arse. And you're looking and going, what the fuck are you talking about? That's what we have here. We have a government which is telling us, you know, no, these are the good drugs and they're the bad drugs. Yeah. And most kids are looking at our parents going, yeah, right, Dad, you know?
As it is. Kevin, that was brilliant. I'd like to wind it up there. Thank you very much for agreeing with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming in and joining with that. So we're just going to wind up there. I'd like to thank Kevin Sharkey again. Please check him out online. Come and visit his gallery at any time. Beautiful location in here. Again, I'm going to remind you, please like the video. Please press the little notification button so that you'll get reminded about future broadcasts. And if you feel the need, I keep mentioning it again, if you want to help the platform grow, we have all our cryptocurrencies, PayPal. Please support the channel. And I'll keep saying it again. It was a fantastic conversation. But thank you very much. Whoosh!
Nice one. You're welcome.